Greetings and welcome to College Planning with the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. I am Dr. Ketsia Sadler, founder of College Cafe, and your moderator for this afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And we are looking forward to a very exciting program. Tonight we have some new guests, we have some returning guests, and so I'm really excited about our topic. But before we get started, I would like to thank our partners. First of all, we want to thank the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals for providing us this platform to provide information to students and families on their journey for post-college, post-high school education, whether you're going to college or trade school. Secondly, we want to thank our additional partners such as Parent Matters, Golden V, and of course, College Cafe. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. So as I said, we've got some really great guests on this evening who come with many, many years of experience tonight. As you know, ever since the election in November, and then especially since after the inauguration in January, we've been hearing lots of talk about changes in this country. And tonight we're talking about navigating paying for college because we are hearing talk about the Department of Education being dismantled. And so what the panel we have together this evening is going to bring their expertise from their areas of the college and career planning. And then we're going to have some information to help you families figure out how you're going to change your plan, rework it, find different resources, and really put enough things in your tool belt so that your child, your children will be successful and be able to reach their goals without going into a lot of debt. So first of all, let me start by introducing our panel. We first have Miss Rhona Vega, who calls herself the chief dreamer of Parent Matters. She's got over 35 years of cultivating this program through her 5 children who have gained way more money in scholarships and grants and have participated in many different programs to help them be successful in their college and careers post-secondary school education. We also have Miss Rose Ellen Mocombe, who is a new member of the college planning family. She is the founder of Beyond Ivy, and her passion for college planning was ignited through her own family's experience. So you're going to hear a lot of us talking about our children and what they've gone through and what we had gone through. And then next we have, who is not on stage right now or on the virtual screen, Mr. Shereem Herndon-Brown, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Strategic Admissions Advice. But his partner and co-author, Mr. Timothy L. Fields, who is the senior associate dean of undergraduate admission at Emory University, is here with us. Mr. Brown should be joining us shortly. And those two gentlemen have written an amazing book. Actually, it's on its second edition, called the Black Families Guide to College Admissions, a conversation about education, parenting, and race. They also have a podcast on application to admission. So if you have not gotten that book, you definitely want to get the first and the second edition because there are some differences. You can compare, contrast, make sure that you're getting all the information. You can never have too much information. And finally, our last guest on our panel this evening is Ms. Jessica Sanchez, who hails from the New Jersey Higher Education and Student Assistance Authority. She is a financial aid workshop facilitator. So as you see, just by their introductions, you are in for a treat because we have lots of information to give you. And just get your pens, pencils, your iPads, whichever one you need, just get it ready to take some notes. And thankfully, Mr. Herndon-Brown has joined us. So welcome. We're happy to see you. And so let's get started. So I want to have everyone just introduce yourself by just talking about your academic and work career and how you got to the point that you are now. So anyone can jump in and we'll follow suit. Don't be shy because you all have lots of
ladies first. Ladies first. Come on now.
Okay,
all right,
I'm
go
gonna
first.
shout out Ms. Okay, go ahead. Thanks. There you go.
Okay, so you said education. Okay, my name is Rhona Vega. I'm the founder and chief dreamer of Parent Matters, also known as Exposure and Opportunities. My education, I actually started at a PWI on the North Shore of Boston. Not a whole lot of support and encouragement there for, I think it was about 10 of us, folks of color. So I left. I ended up graduating from North Carolina Central University in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, and did my master's at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck, New Jersey. So it took me a long time to do all that stuff. So I always tell folks I work with a lot of students in college at the community college level as well as young people trying to find their way through Parent Matters. And your time is your time, right? But finding your passion, I think, is really important. I think it's funny because I tell my kids now, right? My youngest is 20 and going into her senior year of college, and I said, I just found out what I'm supposed to do in life. So it is what it is, and I think that the biggest thing I can share is that give yourself a lot of grace and try to figure out your way by trying a lot of different things and ruling out anything that maybe you don't enjoy. And because I think it's important for us to live on a planet where people are happy and joyful and enjoy what they do every day. So don't just think about money, think about what you really, really enjoy, and the money will come.
Absolutely. Yes, Miss Rosellen, yes. You're on mute.
Step one, take yourself off of mute. So my name is Rosellen Mocombe, and I am a resident of Oviedo, Florida. My education as it relates to what I do now is that I've completed a certificate program through UC Irvine, where I learned and developed a firm foundation to fully understand the college admissions process and how to address the legal, insurance, marketing, ethical, and general business issues in college admissions. I continue to earn a designation as a certified college funding consultant with the American Institute. And this allows me to assist families with college funding, which is the hot topic for today. But before you even get to college financing, I think there's financing at home. So helping people with their personal finances. I'm a certified YNAB coach. If you've heard of You Need a Budget, I can help families to really hone in the finances before they even begin thinking about college. And finally, as it relates to the profession that I've chosen to embark on now, it's a constant stage of learning. I'm a certified assessment practitioner for AchieveWorks and the True Talent Inventories. So I really can assess you in terms of your personality, skills, intelligence, learning styles, and productivity preferences before you get to college. So I look forward to learning and helping, and the journey continues.
Yes, it does.
I'll go ahead. So hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Sanchez, and I am a financial aid workshop facilitator with an organization called HISA. Our name is super long, the New Jersey Higher Education Student Assistance Authority. And we basically oversee all financial aid in the state of New Jersey. And wherever state you're from, your state probably has an organization similar to ours. In New Jersey, we help give financial aid to students. When you stay in state to go to college, you usually do qualify for a lot more financial aid, and New Jersey is an example of that. Aside from encouraging students to stay in state for college, I just help students with the financial aid process in general. So primarily with the FAFSA, and in New Jersey, we have a system called the New Jersey Alternative Financial Aid Application for undocumented students. So I'm very well versed in FAFSA, what it takes to fill it out, what the steps are like, understanding the difference between different kinds of financial aid, because there's federal, there's state, there's loans, there's institutional scholarships. I got my start in financial aid back in college. When I was a freshman, I started working in the Office of Financial Aid, and all these years later, I'm still in financial aid, and I really do enjoy it. I love working with students, and I love letting them know that it is possible to go without having all this insane amount of debt. It is super, super possible. I think a lot of students, when they think of college, they immediately think, debt, headaches. It's not always like that. When you do the FAFSA, when you take the steps to understand what is required to get this free money, hopefully to go to college, it really is possible. So I'm hoping we can talk about the different ways we can get financial aid if federal is no longer an option in the future.
Thank you, ladies.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Fields, Senior Associate Dean of Undergraduate Admission at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Also co-author of the Black Families Guide to College Admission, a conversation about educational parenting and race. Been in higher education for 25 years. Went to college at Morehouse, but since then have worked at the University of Massachusetts, Georgia State University, Emory, and several other colleges, mostly in the realm of college admission. So happy to be here and help in any kind of way.
And I will back clean up and say my name is Shereem Herndon-Brown. Like Roselle, and I have a college counseling or college admissions company. Tonight, I believe I'm here in the capacity of the co-authors, the Black Families Guide to College Admission. Tim and I have a podcast, like was mentioned earlier, called Application to Admission, where I help families on the application side. And he's obviously very well versed in what it takes to be admitted to particularly a selective school. Because he's also a graduate of a HBCU, Morehouse College, and I'm a graduate of Wesleyan University, a predominantly white institution in Connecticut. We have this duality of different experiences, different understandings of the process, and I think we've put it together in a book that can help a lot of people in a lot of different capacities. And we are thrilled to be here tonight to share any insights that we have.
Well, thank you so much. As I said to the virtual audience, we've got a powerhouse panel here this evening who is going to help you figure out how to help your child to be successful. So you each kind of mentioned what you've done, what you do, but can you highlight maybe some of the successes or some things that really stand out over the past few years and what you've been doing that you can say, oh my gosh, this was a time that we really helped a family just turn the corner. So if you have an experience like that you can share, that would be awesome. Or two.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get us started. So obviously, Shereem shared about our book. And, I think beyond our book, we've had opportunities to have, talk to parents and families, educators throughout the country. And in a lot of those conversations, I think what we've been able to find is there is a disconnect between the knowledge that's out there available for families as they go about this process. A lot has changed in the last year, better yet to talk about the last 5, 10, 15, or 20 years since a lot of parents went to college or were, going through the process. So I think, our kind of big aha moment is just, helping people understand that, how much is going on, how much has changed, helping them in the process, thinking about what does it mean, whether or not you should take a test or not. What does it mean? Should you consider historically Black colleges or universities in your college admission process? Also, helping them, think about, what should I prioritize in this process? So I think those are some of the wins that we've seen. I think it's most important. We just have these opportunities along with our other colleagues to share information about what's happening right now because it's happening very, very fast.
Absolutely.
I will continue that conversation and let you know that every child is not perfect, right? Like there are no perfect kids out there, and you don't have to have the perfect score and the perfect background to get into the school of your choice. I've had the opportunity to help students that have records or that have been expelled or have had problems that require immediate attention. If I cannot handle it directly, so that there is a successful transition and matriculation into college. So there's always hope. And I think that people need to realize that you don't have to be perfect. There is a place for everyone. And as professionals, it's our job to help you find that fit.
Thank you for sharing. I think if there's anything different that my company or expertise brings that, Tim didn't mention was that, again, Tim and I work together for understandingthechoices.com. We have a foundation, understandingthechoices.org, that really wants to try to fill in the gaps of misinformation or lack thereof as it pertains to the college admissions process. Separately, my company, Strategic Admissions Advice, does a lot of the similar things, but, at scale. But I think what makes our company a little bit different is that we offer support for students and parents, understanding that sometimes families need an intermediary. I have a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old, and almost 13-year-olds, and I know they listen to nothing that I say, even though I'm pretty sure I'm certain of what I mean. But all that said, we understand as a company that parents need to hear something about college admission, students need to hear something about college admission, and although it could be the same information, but they hear it differently, and then they need to come together. So I think our company does a good job of offering strategic admissions advice to both parents and students, and allowing them to make the decisions based upon our suggestions.
Thank you. That's
I love that. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. And, I can think of, wow, tons of success stories as you asked the question. Of course, it's wonderful when a parent calls and says, hey, my kid got a $10,000 scholarship. And you're like, oh, wow, that's wonderful. And, but I also think of these as big wins, like, just recently having a conversation or connecting a family to some of our success coaches. And I do a show called The Power of Exposure, which started back in COVID in 2020, that really highlights young people who have had some different level of success, but also their journey from high school or middle school to where they are, and the ups and downs, and no straight line, and nobody's perfect kind of. And I think that peer mentoring, and for young people and the parents, hearing from successful young people, maybe right under 30 or between 20 and 30, 25 and 30, and seeing there is a different level of paying attention. I think they're a little bit more motivating to the young people. And, just recently we had dinner with a family, and the mom was really nervous about all the things about what's happening now in our country, and education, and getting into college, and the finances, and there's also a lot of emotion for parents, right? There's a pride because you really had this dream that your kid was going to go off to this particular school. And sometimes that's not always our dreams and goals for our kids is maybe not always what's the same as what it is now, maybe from 30 years ago. And I think the biggest thing was these two coaches, that one was 25 and one was 30, speaking to this family and really pouring into them and letting them know, wow, this is what I wish I didn't do. I wish I hadn't signed up for those private loans. Even though I got a great education, I am paying for that now. $2,500 a month in student loan debt. That's insane. When I could have done something differently, right? And how it affects you, right, in your life. Even if you have a great job, that's still a lot of debt. And I say to people, a lot of parents, trying to really help them not feel this parent guilt, would you really go into a bank and ask to buy a house for your child for $200,000-$300,000 that they're never going to live in? Because a lot of times that's what we're paying for when it comes down to the debt and the interest and all the things over 4 years. And then the other piece was just talking about maybe not a brand name school, right? We all know about 50 schools, but let's talk about a school that really fits your child, where they're going to survive and thrive. And that was the big battle between me and my kids. And I said, you're going to go somewhere where there's a cohort that has a major that you have interest, where they're going to kind of track you, and they're going to stay on top of you, and you're not going to get lost in the numbers, and you're also going to thrive. And your mental wellness and your well-being is really the primary resource. Whether that whatever the name of that school was, I had to feel like that was home for them, and there was somebody on that campus that I could really so I think that mom called me the next day or texted me the next day and just said, I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me, because the things that those two coaches said to that young person just resonated. And even though mom is like, I've been saying this for 5 years, and sometimes you really got to, and that's probably the smartest thing I did as a mother, is let other people mentor my kids. I created a village to move them to action.
I love that. I think also success, what we're kind of touching on too, success looks different for everyone. Success can take a while. Success can be in the small wins as well. And I see that a lot in my job. So I help students with the FAFSA basically every single day. And what I see a lot is the student who is not really interested in college, but needs to get it done. It's senior year. Counselors telling them, parents are telling them, hey, get it done. And it's true that when a student does the FAFSA, it puts the idea of college into their head. They think a little bit more seriously about their future. In New Jersey, it is a graduation requirement. So I've seen it a lot this year. A lot of students who were not really interested in college before are now getting the FAFSA done. And the thing with the FAFSA too is that it does have a lot of technical glitches with the website. They made a lot of changes in the last year So it's not as easy to fill out as it was in the past. And so a lot of success that I see is a student who is not really interested, but he understands they need to get it done. And then we work on it together. And then once they complete it, they're like, oh my God, awesome. What's next? And then they start to ask more questions. They start to be a little bit more engaged. And so I think it is perfectly fine if we're dealing with a student that's in that situation as well. They're not really sure yet. But as long as we're taking those steps to get there, as long as, we're doing the FAFSA together, we're thinking about what our next steps are going to be. We're thinking about what potential school we might be interested in or might not be interested in if we don't want to go to a big school. Maybe community college is a better route for us. It really just does depend. And again, success looks different for everyone, and that is completely fine.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think we all, like you said, on different levels, we talk to families, we talk to students, and you meet each person where they are, and you might have to nudge them just a little bit, and then you get them to open up, and then they blossom and realize how much potential they have and what opportunities are available to them. But they just need that little bit, that village, or, the parent needs another parent to say exactly what they've been saying for the past month or years to their child. So that's really, really important for the families to hear. And so we've been talking about FAFSA. So FAFSA, everyone knows you have to do FAFSA. That's how, they determine the federal aid and things like that. And so what do you think is going to happen with families? Say they do disband the Department of Ed, and do you think that FAFSA is going to go away? And how will we navigate that with families? How are we going to talk to them about, okay, you're not going to have this $5,000 in a federal loan. You won't get the Pell Grant or whatever. So how will you manage that with families? What do you anticipate the conversations to be in order to help them still be successful?
I'll start. We are so upside down right now as per higher education and the priorities, dare I say, of our federal government to assist students in their pursuit of higher education that I am actively advocating for families to choose price over prestige. And I know some people feel that that's dangerous, that you want your kid to have the quote unquote social capital of going to X school. And again, I don't blame them. And if you got the money, then do that. But I think we're so much uncertainty right now. We would be fiscally and emotionally irresponsible to act with emotion, as a terms of for paying for college. The bottom line is that none of us know what's going to happen. Period. What we do know is that colleges are tightening their belts. Right, they're not going to overspend on students. They're not getting as much federal aid. $400 million leaving, not going to Columbia is significant. So all that said, I think we are, for better or for worse, at a different time where I don't want to minimize a college degree. I'm a parent. I still want my children to go to college, primarily for the learning experience of 18 to 22, with hopefully, figuring out who they are, but getting some intention around a career. But I also understand that whether it's trade schools, I know there are a lot of Black men choosing trade schools over college right now, whether it's using technology to their advantage as per it may pertain to a career, including AI. I think we have to just reevaluate. I agree that, us going into significant amounts of college debt burdens kids, burdens parents in ways that isn't going to burden the people making the decisions right now. So all that said, I think that if families hear anything that Tim and I may be saying, it's definitely hoping that you will choose price over prestige, and also minimizing how many colleges kids apply to. We feel like it's gotten to be exorbitant where kids applying to 50 schools, they can only go to one. That means they haven't been as discerning as maybe they could or should be, as where they really are a good fit. And thank you, Rosellen, for having, I think you have something on your website about how fit works in all the different pieces, that kind of interconnected web and circles, a very, very explicit graphic that I think is helpful for families to see that you got to factor in so many different things, because going to X school does not equal X success, no matter what you deem it to be. So I think that has to be paramount on people's minds.
Absolutely.
Ditto. There's something I can only support what has been said by Shereem. And on the website, that my company is Beyond Ivy at Educational Consulting. And there we really focus on even the name of the company, as it relates to me, was as a parent, I had my nose in the air that my children should only attend an Ivy League school or bust, right? That was my mentality. And God had to show me another way, that there are many other schools and there are wonderful opportunities where children can learn and thrive and be supported. And that's what we seek to do at Beyond Ivy, to find that fit with all of those variables: social, academic, financial. And right now, for this evening's topic, it's purely financial, right? So understanding what you can afford, understanding how to find those net price calculators so that you can avoid being scammed, really, and understanding that sticker price for college is not the real price, and completing the FAFSA so that you can really have an opportunity to know what funds are available to you, and doing the research and partnering with the professionals that are here to help you. These are people that have experience, that have expertise, that have the desire to support you on your journey. So I encourage all of the listeners there to take note of those that are here, because they are more than willing to support you on the journey.
I think now more than ever, it's so important to take advantage of the resources that we have, like you're saying, because as we look at the next couple of years and what higher education might look like, we're not really sure, right? So I think it's super important to have a basic understanding. You know, what are the different kinds of education that a student can pursue? Because when they're in high school, they're not really thinking seriously about this. They're not really sure like what it is that they want to do. But educating a student later on, hey, this is what a community college is. This is what a trade school is. This is the difference. That's going to help them a lot as they approach the senior year and as they start to think a little bit more seriously about their future. Understanding different kinds of financial aid, right? There's federal, there's state, there's institutional, there's private scholarships. And the search for private scholarships is never ending. A student can always begin looking for those at any point. So just making sure that students are aware of these things, and parents as well, being able to guide your student through that process will be extremely, extremely helpful and important in the next couple of years.
Ms. Vega, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the community college as a big option. Like, I know locally, we just don't see enough young people taking advantage of it, especially young people that are closer or are closer to, let's say historically excluded, right? And generally, we don't see enough. And I remember even my daughter, who went to Spelman, and who changed her major after she had a great scholarship in STEM and decided to change her major. And she came back home and for a semester and took classes at a community college and was like, why didn't I start here? And I was like, well, they called it the 13th grade and you are not feeling that. So, you know, we see a lot of young people missing the opportunities that, you know, where you live and you have great community colleges. My husband was a community college professor for many years. And so, and I think that a lot of young people, that's a great option. I really do. And I think, you know, I love how you talked about price over prestige. You know, I tell parents to kind of put their pride on hold and let's think about the end game here and where you want your child to be. And there's just so many opportunities to take advantage of. And I don't really buy into where you go. I think that you can get a great education in so many different avenues and areas like we all spoke about. And the most important thing, like I mentioned before, is finding a place where you're going to thrive, where you're going to feel successful, you're going to feel comfortable, and you're really going to be able to find your way. And a lot of young people coming out, I have 5 kids. Only one of my children going into college knew what they wanted to do. Only one. And he knew that in 5th grade when he was in a coding club. And so he pursued computer science at Howard. And so, but the rest of them, it was kind of like, so I just didn't want to pay for a whole lot of let's just figure this out. But one of the things I did, and what allowed my kids to really get access to a lot of money as far as scholarships, is we started early in middle school and high school, just really doing a lot of exposure. And even with all of that, with the other four, they still didn't know what they wanted to do. The one who knew what he wanted to do was kind of like, oh, I already said I want to do this. But we still wanted them, but he learned a lot, right? We put him in financial literacy programs. On my way home today to this call, I spoke to an organization called, I'm going to put a shameless plug in here, Youth About Business. Just really incredible program that was based in New York and Tennessee before COVID, and now is coming back to New York this summer. But just a really incredible program. So there are so many enrichment programs and student development programs that young people can not only learn and also figure out what they don't like, but also these allow their resumes to look really robust to a college, you know, and it opens up so many different doors. And I think that we have to start doing that with our young people, really trying to figure out what is their passion, what motivates them. And it's funny when you talk to a parent, I talked to one today, and she was just like, I don't really know what he likes. And then the conversation kept going, and she's like, oh yeah, he's a jazz musician. I'm like, you should have led with that. Like, you know, so sometimes we're too close, and sometimes that's why you have to get other folks. And it's great having all these professionals on the call on this Zoom webinar to share and take full advantage, y'all. You know, a parent said to me a while ago, how do you create this village? You talk about having a village, you know, and so these are village keepers right here. And everybody needs somebody in their back pocket and a team of people to help move their kids to action. It's not only you that can't move your kids to action. You know, my husband used to get really upset. How come we pay the bills, we do this, we do that, and they're not really listening to us? That's okay. I call it mom psychology. Just find somebody else to say the same thing and it'll move them.
Absolutely. And I wanted to comment quickly on something that you said, Mr. Herndon-Brown, about the price versus prestige. The reality is when we're looking for a doctor later on, you never ask the doctor what undergraduate college they attended. So it really doesn't matter. You don't even ask what medical school or what school did you attend. That's not even important to you. So families getting caught up in the name and getting caught up in debt is a bigger issue than finding the school where you will thrive, as Ms. Vega said. So that's really important. And then, as she mentioned, with the mom who said that her child was a jazz musician, both my children ended up doing careers that reflected how they were as children. My younger son is working for Vibe magazine now. He loved music when he was a kid. Now, he could have been an attorney because he likes to debate every point of, can I go out tonight or whatever? But he ended up doing what he loved. The older son used to sell his snacks when he was in elementary school to get money to buy stuff he wanted. He majored in marketing and ended up being a district manager for Aldi and Lidl. So a lot of times, parents, let's look at what your kids are doing, because they may not need a career that requires that 4-year degree. They may just need to go to trade school. If they're good with their hands, then they might need to become a mechanic or something. Think about how much money you'll save in oil change and stuff like that if you have one. So just the practicality of life, you know, not going into debt. I'm a doctor, I want my child to be a doctor, but the child really doesn't want to do that. So we kind of have to look at our children. So how do you see, or how do you hope that school districts would maybe change how their focus in helping the children to be more successful? Because what I've seen is sometimes they focus on the ones whose parents are like me and Ms. Vega and all of us who are in the guidance counselor's office, constantly asking for the scholarships and things like that. But how can they kind of pivot to help the parent who may not have found their village yet? Any suggestions for the parents out here?
It's hard. It's hard. I'll say that, because again, I understand that school counselors, schools, districts are stretched and they can't be all things to all people. So I say that with tremendous empathy, that I understand that it's hard to identify students. And again, I think Rosellen, your Achieve work, which I use as part of my College Planner Pro, is essential. But I think that educators need to earlier introduce the concept of college, and not just the concept, but the process of. The earlier kids can hopefully do what they need to do on their own, AI, technology, the less of a burden they might be onto them. I think schools need to say, look, you have 4 choices after you graduate here. This high school thing is going to come and go. You can get a job, which again, job is honorable. You want to, work a job, it's going to probably be hourly. And eventually, we're not sure if that's going to lead to a career, but at least it's something being productive. But think long term. What you do at 18 to 22, Short term, job, hourly, take it or leave it, bravo. Number two, you can go to the military. And my father's a Vietnam vet. He made it very clear to me early on, you're not going to the military. So although I appreciate those who go, that is the only thing you can do. If not have a job, you can go to military. It's two other things between ages of 18 to 22, 23, whatever you want to say. All right. Number three is go to college, right? You can go to college, trade school, any kind of educational experience where you're bettering yourself and trying to evolve into someone you're going to be 10, 20 years later setting the foundation for a career is an opportunity. So I want families to think about, do I want my kid to have an hourly job? Do I want them to go to military? Do I want them to go to college? Or do I want them to go to jail? I don't even like saying that, but that's all it is. I have a son who's 20 years old, and I know right now, if he does something that I would hate for him to do, wrong place, wrong time, that's what's going to happen. So we have to help schools to say, these are the four things kids can do. If we don't steer them away from the last one, we're not even going to talk about it anymore. Encourage them to get a job and hopefully, do something that can keep them engaged and hopefully progressing professionally. They can go to the military and use that as a stepping stone for a college degree, or go to college / trade school. That's it. I think if they work really crystal clear with what the options are, I think that would resonate with students a lot more.
I want to add something to that. Thank you for sharing all that. There are also volunteer opportunities. I've run programs and I've worked in nonprofit organizations where the talent was always looked at. First of all, to hire someone was looked at a lot of volunteers. So, volunteering, even as early as middle school and high school, also looks great on your resume. And some of those presidential scholarships at colleges go to folks who've created organizations or have done a lot of volunteer hours. Also gap year. I actually begged every one of my children to take a gap year. Not one of them took me up on it. They were like, what black mama trying to send her child around the world to do something? But I wanted them to find themselves. I also remember talking to my daughter's professor at Spelman going, why do you send your kids? She's a different culture. And she's like, why do you send your kids so far away? It's some of them can really get depressed, and they got to see my kid more than I did, and they could see what was happening at 17 and 18 years old. Sometimes are not ready for that. So a gap year, I've known students to take a gap semester before they entered college, or a gap year. Also, my brother's been in security since the 70s. We grew up in New York. He went to City College. So I remember all these Cisco books and all the things. But, at this point he's a consultant, but, most of the people he hires are not people from the black and brown community. And he's always really sad about that, because he's like, there's so much money to be made and you don't actually need a college degree. You can get certificates to get into these careers. And so, there are a lot of different ways to make money. I also just want to mention and talk about internship opportunities. You can intern in high school. There are more and more opportunities to do that kind of work. And then also, even at a community college level, there are so many grants out here to intern and to put some money in your pocket. So I'm not against the retail jobs or fast food jobs. My kids all did that. But there was a time when they had to stop and they had to get into spaces and places where they could grow their network, right? Because their network opened up the doors to so many other opportunities, including jobs, including internships. And so we just have to really keep our eyes open. And I think for students, we can't be limited. And parents sometimes can be the gatekeepers, even though it's out of love. They're like, oh, my kid isn't really interested in engineering, but I'm like, there's a free program down the street, in engineering. Like, why not? It's a Saturday program for 7th through 9th grade or 12th graders. And so parents, I think, out of fear sometimes shelter their kids from, maybe they're not a good student, right? And so they feel like, oh, if I put my kid in this program, they're going to fail at something else. And I beg to differ. Push them out of their comfort zone. Put them in places and spaces that's going to allow them to open up and grow. I remember driving my son to UPenn as a 10th grader. He literally cried all the way there. And then it changed his whole life. And that's how I learned about Martha's Vineyard, because he called me 3 days in and says, Mom, what's summering on the vineyard? And so he was in a prestigious place with very, very wealthy kids of color that opened up his whole world, and so he wouldn't have gotten that, working at a summer job or something like that. So even though he whined and complained and moaned, it really changed his life. Same thing with studying abroad. I just really, really want to emphasize studying abroad is how he said he got his first job offer at a college at Deloitte because of his international travel and some of the internships that he did, and then having that because they wanted him as an international tax consultant. So they wanted to just make sure he was cool with people from all over the world. And so who knew, right? And so I just think, and you just can't close your mind. You may think you know what you want to do, but push your kids into trying different things. One last story. There was a parent that her son was a senior. He wasn't really enjoying school. And I just found out about this program because of my visit to Martha's Vineyard at Goldman Sachs, financial literacy program for high school students. 9 months. They got to go there twice a month. And my kid was the first one out of New Jersey to participate. And he hated it. Every Wednesday, he would start coughing in the morning. Like, I don't think I can. And so anyway, we pushed him. He went. And oh, my God, it was just, sorry, I'm like PTSD right now. And so this mom put her son in this program, and she was really, really hesitant. She said, I don't know what's happening. It started in October. By November, she's like, he wants to go shopping. He wants to buy suits because they had to literally change at school, get on the bus, get into New York, out down to Battery Park City to the Goldman Sachs office. And he was like, and the executive director of the program said, who's this kid? Like, he's the first one to present. Like, it changed his whole demeanor in life. And this was a kid that was not enjoying school. And so sometimes it's because they haven't found their thing, you know, or a lot of times. So I'm just saying, like, just don't count your kids out. Try everything.
And I'll add to taking that first step to become besties with a guidance counselor will help you so much. When a student gets to know their guidance counselor, as a parent, if you get to know a guidance counselor, they're the ones that really know about these opportunities. They know if there's local programs. They know if there's scholarships. They know if there's a scheduled college tour coming up that the student can sign up for. Maybe the student isn't telling you, but the counselor knows. And, you know, they're spreading the word in the Google Classroom that maybe you're not a part of, you know? So I think definitely building that relationship with teachers and counselors at the school will help you learn more about these opportunities if the student is not telling you. Because my brother's that way. My younger brother, he's 15. He's in high school right now. Like, he is not telling me about these things, but I know they exist. And luckily, I know the counselors at his school. So I know when these things are happening. So knowing that will help you a lot as well. And trying to push the student a little bit more.
So many hot tips. I'll add just a couple. One would be digital learning in this age of digital, digital age, getting digital certifications. An example would be like with Franklin Covey, they have leadership programs. So that's something to consider. And also using your library, having your library card, knowing your librarian. I discovered something, LinkedIn Learning. Mm-hmm. Amazing tools and resources that you can have for free. That is something that you should take advantage of. This is part of what you are already paying for as a resident. So enjoy that privilege and maximize it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, everyone. And what you had said earlier, Mr. Herndon-Brown, reminds me of my new superintendent in my district. And her motto has become that every student who graduates will either be employed, enlisted, or enrolled. So they're going one of those three tracks. Mm-hmm. Because, again, everyone has a different pathway to go. So which one are we going to help you find so that you can at least start somewhere and then along the way figure out where you will end up being. So, but in talking about the scholarships, so any strategies we have for helping families, because I know I talk to so many and the parents are like, I can't get my child to do these scholarships. So any tips you have for getting the parents to help their children to fill out the applications for scholarships or to even find them, and anything else that you can think of that was helpful with your children or with children in your village or students you work with?
So I told my children very early on, not as a bad choice or a negative thing, but if you don't get enough money to go to school, then we're going to go to the local college, community college. That was your choice. Or they could go where my husband taught, right? And so for free. And so, so that was their motivator. And that's kind of how they worked a little harder. And they kind of got they were in the right place at the right time, and they had a really good network. And I think that village made a big difference for my kids. So, when kids don't want to fill out applications and essay questions and that kind of stuff, and to me, they might need a little bit more time and a little bit more support. So I love to lean on a community college for that extra support, because throwing them into a 4-year school, especially a school that is going to require a lot of work, is really just not a good fit. It's not a good situation, because you're really setting your kid up for failure. And feel like it's really heartbreaking to start somewhere and then have to leave because you're not able to survive now the social piece, and now you have no one waking you up, right, and no one telling you to go to bed, and no one monitoring your social media use and all the things, and you have to now be disciplined. And so that discipline has to start really, really early. I mean, as simple as making up your bed every morning when you get out of it, that's a part of discipline and training your kids and stuff like that. So I think that you really have to know your child. My son, when he went to Howard, he wanted to do engineering and computer science. And I leaned more toward the business school because I felt like Howard's business school was extremely robust, and that's where all the recruiters came. And I had one goal in mind with these 5 kids. They had to get a job, and they had to pay their own bills, and they had to buy their own food and all that, so I could get back to my life. And so, and he fought me on it. And I remember the dean of the business school sat down, and it's 7 of us there, and she made room for all of us. And she explained that you can be in the business school and major in computer information systems. And listen, he still got to Facebook as an internship and Google and all the great things that he needed to get to without going the engineering route. And you got to know your kid. You got to know if they're going to be disciplined enough to be in some of these cutthroat programs also. That, I remember starting college and them saying, I don't know if you guys experience this, look to your left and look to your right, and some people are not going to be here. And I was like, well, why would y'all tell us that on the first day of college? So, and it's real. And a lot of it starts with discipline, and then putting your kid in the right environment where they're going to survive and thrive, not fail.
As it relates to scholarships, I think even that word sounds just so overwhelming, and people may shy away from even trying. So try and bring it home and think local. Everybody knows somebody. Your banker, and your grocer. And so using those relationships and just merely asking the question can bring you one step closer, and even helping your kids, positioning them that they know someone. They're not writing to Coca-Cola, and they're not writing to any other major organization where someone may not know them, but start with people that in your community, organizations that do support children's initiatives and educational programming, and you will have a sense of success, which may propel you to go further and further ahead.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned earlier a student not wanting to apply to scholarships. I think the one thing that will make a student want to apply for scholarships is literally just looking at the price tag. That happens every single year, this time of year, when I'm helping students decide where they want to go to college. Again, I work in state financial aid, so I usually tell students it's good to stay in state, but a lot of, the high achieving students, they want to go out of state, they want to go to the IBs. And so around this time of year, as we get closer to decision day, I'm visiting high schools, making sure they're done with the FAFSA, and they show me their financial aid packages. And then they tell me, hey, I need your opinion. Is this school really expensive? And we do the math together. We'll look at what the cost of tuition is, what the cost of housing is. Okay, awesome. You did the FAFSA. Let's subtract the Pell Grant, which is free money that you're getting to go to that out-of-state school. If you're staying in state, okay, let's subtract the in-state financial aid. Now look at this number here. Do you like that number? Is it a little bit too much? Did you get any institutional scholarships? Did you ask if you can maybe be appealed and get reconsidered for the institutional scholarships that the school offers? No. If not, then maybe you need to take out loans. Do you want to take out loans? Okay, let's do the math. Is this loan something you actually want to take out? Does this fit into your future with the career that you want? Do you think you'll be able to pay this back in the future? And when you have that conversation with the student, they immediately realize, oh, Yeah, I should have looked up the price of this college before I applied. I should have realized how expensive it actually is to go out of state. And then they start to rethink a little bit. And if they do want to go out of state, usually they will call financial aid. They will call admissions and they'll say, hey, really interested in your school, didn't get enough financial aid. Can we maybe negotiate something? Can I get more financial aid? And sometimes it does work. If you don't ask, you'll never know. And so literally the price tag, that's what scares students. And that's what makes them realize, oh my God, I should have applied to that scholarship that my counselor was telling me about. I should have done my research my junior year. So that always works in my experience.
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
And I just want to add, parents being really real with their kids and honest about the price tag, because these are young people and they're not paying bills. But because I put my kids in financial literacy programs young, they actually wanted to know more and they wanted to understand. And I think that's really important because they need to know and create strong habits before they get their first paycheck, right? So they're not consumers, just consumers. So I think that really being honest with your children about, listen, this is not going to happen unless we do this. And me, Ketsia, my motto about scholarships and just getting merit money, especially, it really starts in middle school, moving on. And what you do, like some of the essay questions will say, what did you do last summer? And so you really want to be able to show them, a college especially, that, hey, or a scholarship funder, that, I really want this, and unfortunately this time of year, people are like, you're saying, Jessica, folks are just in distress, especially this year, but on regularly, because it's like, I really wanted my kid, this was my dream, right? Since they were born, to go to this particular school. But the work wasn't done. The GPA is not there. The SAT score is not there, that they can't, I was on the phone with Howard recently with a parent, and she said, can I get more money? Like I say, definitely ask, appeal. And she said, well, what was her SAT score? And when we looked at the SAT score, it wasn't high enough to give the extra money. And so we got to know that, and you got to really put in the work. And now you can get coaching on your SAT, and just particular sections, just based on their first try or whatever, or second try, and they can really bump the score up. But it's a worthwhile investment, to have folks like us in your village, to have the test prep, and because it could save you. You may invest 4 figures and save 6. And that's really how you want to look at it. And you have to be honest with your kids about your budget. And I remember telling one of my kids, I'm not going to become homeless for you to go to college. And I think that's really real. And parents maybe want to pretend like they have more than they do. And you really got to be honest so your kids understand the reality and what this will look like when they come out of college, or look like for you and your family, struggling.
Yes, yes, yes. Mr. Brown, anything else you want to add to that?
Money in college is tricky, and I think we're all kind of sharing our experiences, or just what we know. It all depends on everybody's situation. I am a proud parent of a community college graduate. My son to date has no student loan debt, and I do think that I'm a college counselor. I went to, a prestigious school, yet I still feel that we're just at a time that, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have to do a better job of making sure our kids know the cost of college and how much is going to affect the family. But I also want parents to stop themselves and not make the emotional choices. And again, I got to practice what I preach, but I really want families to say, at this day, 2025 is not 1995. And we have to do things a little bit differently so that our kids can have the future that they want, not necessarily what we want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Got to know your kids and have those real conversations. So I kind of want to play a little, I guess, devil's advocate with this question, because I had a parent mention to me last week with all the things they're hearing. And so I want to ask what you think is going to happen with college tuitions. Do you think with everything going on, will they drop the cost of tuition? Will they raise the cost of tuition? Because it was a concern for them. So
I'll jump right in on that one. I had an affluent family tell me this, so I'm going to be very clear. I think people are just going to go to their state schools. I honestly think that the cost of college don't matter. Even if you have it, nobody wants to shell out that kind of money. Like you said, it's $300,000, and I don't know what you're doing there. And I think colleges, just the private universities, the price versus prestige, are just going to be filled with people who can afford it. The chasm between the haves and the have-nots, or the haves and the I won't, is just going to continue to grow. And again, I think this is going to be a moment in time where, because of the student loan and Department of Education loan situation, so much is changing so fast. I think people are just going to hit pause and say, you know what? Let's not make these decisions. So I think colleges are going to return to where they were 100 years ago, which is only for those who can afford it. Simple as that.
Okay. Anyone else want to give their thoughts on that topic?
Well, I just want to say, in talking to a parent recently, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know. I appreciate what you're sharing here. But I think this is a really good, for parents who are so emotional about this and feeling all this guilt, a really good time to say, this is a time where this is out of my control. And we don't know what's happening. Our young people are watching TV. They see what's happening in the news, and we really got to pause, and we got to rethink how we're going to approach this. People are losing jobs left and right, etc. So we got to really think about, those pieces. And I think that honesty and those family conversations, I raised my kids, and we had family conversations regularly. My kids couldn't stand it. But anytime somebody did something good or crazy, we had a family conversation, and everybody was involved in it, because we wanted the younger ones to know this is what you shouldn't do or should do. And we all learned, right, through those processes. They were awfully painful sometimes. But I think this is a really good time to just sit down and have real talk with your kids. They're going to be adults soon. And it's the worst thing to graduate college and figure out, I can't find a job, and have all those I wish I had known, right? That doesn't make sense. And I think that's why I do the work that I do. I would love to eliminate I wish I had known. And let's know early on, let's prepare our kids like they're growing into adulthood, and really let them know, like, where do you want to be 5 years from now? What kind of place you want to live in? What kind of vacations do you want to afford to take? And what your decisions you're making now is going to determine all of that.
Absolutely. Yes.
These are definitely challenging times. And as was mentioned, no one really knows anything. The schools don't know, the parents don't know. And every day we learn something new. I think within myself, and I encourage all of us to be creative. This is the time for creativity to shine. I believe we all have innate gifts and talents, and we can and are the solution. So we must be creative. We must collaborate. We must continue the conversations that we're having. We have to continue learning, but it really, I feel, is a time for creativity. And those who are able to pivot, who are able to create, who are able to design, they will come out on top.
Interesting. Is it interesting? And did you say that as for educators, for adults, or how do you introduce that to young people, that their creativity, dare I say artistry, will be a benefit, where many of us will say artistry sounds like you're poor? How do we introduce that? Again, it's a question to, I agree with you that we have to be innovatively thinking. The normal 9-to-5 job, my father worked for UPS for 30 some odd years, things are changing, right? They're trying to find cars that can self-drive, right? How do you introduce that to a 16-year-old who sees this opulent lifestyle on social media, thinks that there's a way to it, but it could be eliminated, but we want to encourage their creativity, and entrepreneurialism is a sexy word? It's hard. And I'm often caught at a crossroads of, I'm not even sure how to explain that to kids, because, I'm struggling to do it myself in my adult life.
And you're not alone, Shereem. But I think it really starts with spaces like this. This is a seed that is planted. And we all have participated in this conversation. And I think from this, we take
Mm-hmm.
it to our home and
Yeah.
we take it to our children at night and we ask them simple questions, nothing big, but what can you make today?
Mm.
Or in the kitchen, what can we do together? Um, just simply and creatively in the little things. We have to introduce that sense of development that we
Yeah.
can and we do. That's I, that's my brainstorming answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to share a little bit too. I talked about student development programs, enrichment programs. Like there are entrepreneur programs out here. I always tell young people, we have these smartphones, right? But they're not using them for the really good, smart ways you could use them. I'm just saying, and so I have now that I've been introduced to Instagram and some of these social media platforms, I'm really bold and I'll find someone because I'm big on bios and seeing how people have launched and grown their careers and created major companies, etc. Or folks who are just coming out of college and being very, using their ingenuity, right, to create jobs or create an avenue or create a way to make money. And so those are the kind of people then you should be reaching out to, or what do they call it, DMing, and most of them respond because one thing I've learned about successful people, as I do a lot of workshops and bring in, I do a lot of speed networking events with young people, is they first of all they can't be who they can't see, so that's the first important thing. So introducing your kids to folks who look like them, who are doing something that maybe they're interested in and have launched, and you'd be surprised how many people want to give back, how many people want to share and really help them move throughout. I think this is a time where, yeah, just being creative and using all those ideas, and we see everybody doing all. I'm not even on TikTok, but I hear all the things, and of people launching businesses. So yeah, I think this is a really good time. And I feel like also within our communities, our ancestors left the blueprint and we got to get back to basics. We got to get, all of us are doing things outside maybe of our regular career to help us and help our people in our community launch. And we just have to continue to do that. We just have to stick together, work together, build, build, build. And as I tell my kids and the people I've helped, you have to continue to lift as you climb. As long as you're keep moving forward and bringing other folks along with you, we can do this.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, all right. If no one else has any additional comments or anything that's come to mind, I do not see any questions in the chat. But if you think of something that you want to say right now, the floor is open. If you want to share something else, but otherwise, I hope that the panel, not the panel, the audience has gotten some gems on how to navigate this process. We have four presently, but we had five folks who are available and willing to help you walk through the process. So please make sure that you reach out to them, follow them on their different social media, their podcasts, on YouTube channels, send them an email, send them a DM, whichever. But we're all available to assist you in this process for your children to be successful. So again, I want to thank my guests, Miss Rosalind Mocombe, Miss Jessica Sanchez, Mr. Shereem Herndon-Brown, Miss Rhona Vega, and Mr. Timothy Fields in his absence. And of course, our partners in Parent Matters, Golden V and NAAHP and College Cafe, for providing this opportunity for our families to get information that they need. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for taking time to spend with us and have a great night. And we will see you on the next webinar. Have a great time. Good night.
Thank you again. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.